why don't you try working as a banker? And I said, I don't even know what a bank is. I was a science guy, 22 years old, who understands what a bank is. And he said, well, they are looking for what they called at the time rocket scientists. It's something special that if Friday comes, you feel sad because it's the weekend. And if Sunday comes, you feel happy because Monday you are going to work. And that's how I used to be. It's not a secret. I don't like the banking culture in Cyprus. I don't like the environment. I don't like this attitude. Bit of color, that bit of difference, that bit of extra challenge. And now I realize that sometimes it's better to hire not the best. Just go for diversity.
I'm Farah Shammas. Welcome to Hotel Talk. We hope you enjoy listening to this friendly conversation between people connected by real life in hotels. Welcome back to Hotel Talk. And today I have with us a dear friend who, yes, again, I met because of this amazing industry while he was with Hellenic Bank at the time. Yannis Matsis is currently managing the Cyprus office of MUFG Investor Services. And he's had several roles in between his time at Hellenic and this, and also before that. So I'm going to let you, Yanni, tell everyone in your own words who you are, what you do, where you come from, as Cilla Black in the UK used to say. So tell us a little bit.
And the choice is yours.
And the choice is yours. I love that.
I used to love blind date.
Oh my goodness, it was so much fun. It really was. I love it.
And her Scouser accent.
Yes. Okay, so tell us about, and then you can make a choice at the end with a random question here. We'll follow the schedule.
Sure. To begin with, good morning, Farah. Very nice to see you.
Always nice to see you.
Beautiful day today, actually, out there. Nice and warm. Sun is out. It's actually equinox today.
Yeah.
So it's March equinox, which it's the first day of spring, astronomical spring. So
yes, it's the 21st, isn't it? You're right, of March.
We define, we think spring starts on the 1st of March, but actually today is astronomically the first day of spring because it's the day that the Earth is, the axis of the Earth is perpendicular to the sun. Mm-hmm. So almost everywhere on the globe, day and night are equal. Yeah. In terms of time. Okay. So basically you have half of the 24 hours a day and then
and it's night. The first day of Aries today.
It's the first day of Aries and it's the beginning of a new moon actually.
There you go.
Well. So great day.
I love spring and I'm an Aries baby. So.
Thank you for inviting me to speak.
Very pleasure, great. Honestly, Annie, pleasure. Nice I'm so happy that you could make it because I know that how busy you are.
Not at all. It's a pleasure.
So tell us a little bit about you, growing up. Yeah, okay. But start at the beginning, like where you were born, growing up.
Well, if we're to talk about the person, I think to begin with, it's important to speak about who you are as opposed to your history. Mm-hmm. So I'm Yannis. I would say in terms of character, I have to admit I'm a stubborn kind of guy. I also suffer from obsessive compulsive disorder, or I like to call it actually obsessive compulsive order, because everything I own has to be arranged to the millimeter. It's that I'm that anal. So I don't know why they call it a disorder because everything has to be so ordered. I'm also a minimalist, and that perhaps arises because of the compulsive order issue, because you don't want to own too many things. If you do, then you spend too much energy trying to keep everything tidy. So the less I have, the lighter I feel and the happier I am.
Wow.
I'm married, very happily married since 24 years now. I'm, in fact, every day more in love with sunshine. My wife.
That's so sweet.
I'm a very loyal type of guy. I'm loyal to my wife. I'm loyal to my family. I'm also loyal to my friends. Most of my friends, or all of my very dear, good friends that are close to my heart, actually have them since I'm 10 years old now. So it's which is beautiful and nice, and I still see them all on a weekly basis. So it's really very fulfilling. And I'm very introvert as well, even though I'm actually very good at socializing and networking. I do it in small circles. I enjoy it, but can't do big parties, can't do big crowds. I really don't like the small chat. So I'm actually very introvert, and I enjoy a lot myself. So time alone, for me is bliss. So that's about me. I think that's what I have to say in terms of history. I was born in Famagusta in 1969. I had to leave and move to Nicosia during the invasion, so we became refugees. I grew up in Nicosia. I went to public school, elementary school, and then I went to English school in Nicosia, where I finished with my GCEs actually at the time. And after the army, I went to study in the UK, chemical engineering to Cambridge. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I always actually, weirdly, I always enjoyed studying. I happened to be naturally quite good at sciences, so I was always focused on sciences simply because of laziness. It was the easy thing to do because I was good at it. So I did science for GCEs and then science for my bachelor and master's, which is chemical engineering. Following which I stayed in the UK and worked as a banker, actually, nothing to do with chemical engineering. Complete chance. I stayed in London because I wanted to be with my girlfriend at the time, and thinking that at some point I will come back to Cyprus. A friend of mine at the pub one night said, "Why don't you try working as a banker?" And I said, "I don't even know what a bank is." I was a science guy, 22 years old, who understands what a bank is. And he said, well, they are looking for what they called at the time rocket scientists, which meant really people that could come with all these creative and wonderful instruments that the banks used to sell to their clients that eventually caused the collapse of the banking system in 2008. And he said, "You are a scientist. You'll probably manage to get a job." Interviewed with Baring Brothers, which was an old English merchant bank that eventually went bankrupt. And I got a job on the spot. I never looked back. Loved it. Quite lucky. I always loved the jobs I did. So it's the best thing. Loving what you do makes you enjoy every day, enjoy being around, enjoy going into work. Couldn't be any better.
It's amazing just how one conversation led to, a spark, and then you applied, and then started a whole career.
That was complete chance. I recently gave a speech at Follies, where my daughter is currently studying, to this year's graduates of Follies, and I focused. It was about what should they do in life. And I prepared quite a lot for it because I knew my daughter would be there, so I wanted to make sure that I did
not embarrass her.
And my message to those young adults was: you always have to do what you like. Don't conform. Don't fulfill anybody else's expectations. Don't do what your parents expect of you to do. Just find your own path, take control of your life, and do what you like. Because I really found in life that the only way to be fulfilled and the only way to be good at what you do is if you like what you do. Mm-hmm. So everybody has to, whatever that may be. It may be sports, it may be social sciences, it may be, working in any field. So long as you enjoy it, that makes you fulfilled, and that means you will also be good at it. And that was my the focus of everything I had to tell them. And I realized, for me, I made it a mantra now. I have to like it. The only time that it was a complete chance, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to be a chemical engineer because that means working in industry, in factories, in the oil industry, the food industry, or the nuclear industry, really. That's more or less what chemical engineers do. I didn't want to do that. I didn't know what I wanted to do other than be with my girlfriend. And by complete chance, I had this interview without knowing anything about it. So it's the one time in my life that I didn't. I didn't follow what I'm saying, do what you like, but I loved it. I loved it. Never looked back. You know, it's something special that if Friday comes, you feel sad because it's the weekend. And if Sunday comes, you feel happy because Monday you are going to work. And that's how I used to be since I started working. And that's really something to cherish.
Absolutely.
As far as I am concerned anyway.
My dad always said that the trick to being happy in life is find something that you love to do and then find someone to pay you to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll find someone to pay you to do it because there's a room for everyone and for every hobby.
And the same applies for school. Like you said, okay, it was the easy option because you were good at sciences.
Yeah,
but at
I
the end of the
enjoyed
day,
it.
you enjoyed
Same
it. And so you
applies.
did well.
Yeah, same
and
applies.
that's why it was the easy.
Absolutely.
So if it's something you don't like doing, then, you know, you're not going to do as well.
You know, it's interesting. I told them, the young adults I was giving this presentation to, I told them, and to prove the point, I want you all to think who are the teachers in your school that really do not enjoy teaching. And just think it. Don't call it out loud. The teachers were there as well at the end of the day when I was speaking. And, they all took a moment and they thought who it was. And then I said, now I want you to think who are the bad teachers in your school. And they all paused and thought. And then I said, tell me who didn't think of the same names. Who are the bad teachers and who are the teachers that don't really enjoy doing it. And they all agreed that they thought of exactly the same names. And interestingly, afterwards, my daughter told me that they discussed whom they each thought, and they all thought of the same people as well. Yeah. So, it's so obvious. You don't like what you do, you stand out there. And then you are not good at it at the end of the day. You enjoy teaching. You're good at it. Kids love you. So, you feel the other bucket, basically.
And you're not doing any favors to anyone. Definitely not yourself.
Not to yourself, and not to your family, not to society.
And not to society.
Not to the vocation you are doing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's actually the policy I try and follow here all the time. If I can see someone who's not happy, even if I need that member of staff, I always encourage them to move on. Yeah. And even help them find other work.
Exactly. Yeah. I fully agree. Yeah. And it's so sad when you see as parents, you are a parent, I'm a parent, pushing their kids to do what the parents think is right for the kid.
Yeah, or what we missed out on in our lives and subconsciously saying, but wouldn't you like to do?
Yeah. And it's sad because the kids are malleable. They will listen. Some of them rebel, but most eventually follow.
Well, and subconsciously they want that attention.
Exactly. And they want to make you happy. And eventually they are not happy themselves. Yeah. Right. And, they go and become doctors because the father is a doctor or the mother is a doctor. They want to take the job. Yeah. But, maybe you're not meant to be a doctor. Maybe you are meant to be a barber or something, right? So,
exactly. I always remember someone in Lebanon that we knew. He became an engineer because that's what his father wanted him to do. And when he finished, he came back. He said, here's my degree. He gave it to his dad. Nice, crisp, beautiful diploma. And said, right now I'm going to be a jeweler that I want. I did that for you. So the rest is for me.
So nice.
And he did it. And he became a very successful jeweler. So.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Takes guts, but there you go. You enjoy it. You become successful.
So on that note, you've touched it a bit, but I have here my third question for you. What has being a parent taught you? Because you have two wonderful children, and we're all on that roller coaster of parenthood where we learn different things every day from our children.
Yeah, absolutely we do. And what has being a parent taught me? I guess to be honest and sincere, because one thing you want is for your children to be, at least I want, is for the children to be free and to grow without any preconceptions, not to push ideas into their little heads, to grow without any preconceptions, and to feel that they are in a comfortable environment. And in order to get there, you have to be yourself, and you have to be, the best version of your honest self. So I think since having children, it's I've always tried to ensure that I am myself at home, and I am honest in everything I do and in everything I try to do. But it's also taught me that back to what we were saying earlier, you shouldn't indoctrinate. You shouldn't try and pass your own views to other people. So it also makes you as a parent, if you think like that, I mean, clearly not everybody thinks or agrees with that. But if you think like that, then you learn in life in general to be much more accepting, right? Accepting. You have your own views, but you don't try and force those views on other people.
Yeah. And it's tough. It is definitely a learning curve, but it's amazing.
It's tough, but it's the most enjoyable journey ever to be had.
Yeah.
2 kids, 20, my son is 20, my daughter is 18. I honestly, Farah, and I'm sure the same goes for you, enjoyed every second of it. And actually, the best thing is every day gets better.
Yeah.
It starts and it's so difficult, right? You lose your sleep and it's changing nappies and there's no communication with the child. And then every day it's just the communication improves, their skills improve, they become little people. It's just so nice.
And I really agree with that. And I always try and keep that sentiment that I want to enjoy every stage and not fall into that rabbit hole I see so many parents do of just constantly reminiscing about when their child was young.
Every stage.
Because it's all beautiful and you can enjoy them at 20, you can enjoy your kids at 30, you can enjoy, and it's all different,
Absolutely.
but wonderful. So,
we recently had to depart with our son because he went to study. Sunshine, my wife, was very upset. I was actually very happy. It's another stage. And, you see that thing going, become independent and go out in the world on their own. So nice.
Yeah.
So nice. It's great. I feel so envious when I see people with large families. So envious. And I was lobbying Sunshine since we had Selini. I was lobbying her for a 3rd one and the 4th one, if possible. But she wouldn't have any. Now she regrets it, she says.
I remember her saying that when we had dinner. She said she regrets not having a 3rd.
But now she's telling me her eggs are rotten, so she can't have any, she says.
I think you get to a point you say that's it. You'd enjoy a different stage of life, definitely. Yeah. So talking about Sunshine and going back to what you said earlier, how does OCD or OCO, as you wanted to call it, how does that work with living with an interior designer?
It's so tough.
It's so tough because, you can still be, Sunshine's an amazing interior designer. You can still be minimal, but, I think she loves her stuff. She's quite eclectic. She is. So how do you guys balance that?
I just, in my brain, to begin with, I have to say that her work for me, as Yannis, her work is amazing.
It is.
So every space she creates, every space we live in is just so, so nice. You go in and your heart opens up, it's really beautiful. But the way I manage with my OCD is just, I know my stuff have to be tidy. And then, and I know my stuff have to be not many. And then whatever else is her space as far as I'm concerned. Well, I love it. Yeah. I love being in it, but it's not my space. It's, I consider my space to be the very few stuff that I have.
Okay. So you just let it go.
Really just clothes, really. It's not much more. My motorbike helmets and my motorbikes and toothbrushes. That's it.
It's I think the way with pretty much every household. There's all these closets, and then there's like this tiny little section for the husband.
Yeah, exactly.
And the rest is...
Exactly.
I love it. It's so funny. So tell us a bit about you professionally. I'd love you to talk a little bit about your time at Hellenic, which is when we met, and obviously that was quite an interesting time for banking in Cyprus.
Sure. So, as I said, I started working at Baring Brothers, and I don't know if you remember, but this was an English bank.
Yeah, I definitely remember the name.
It had a rock trader called Nick Leeson, who was hiding, he was trading on the bank's balance sheet and created a lot of losses, which he hid in a secret account, a back office account, basically. So, let me not go into the details, but eventually 2 years after I started working there, the bank collapsed. I was actually in the same team as Nick Leeson. I knew him very well. He was a very nice guy. And he did, if you like, give in to a human weakness of not wanting to be humiliated by showing the losses that he created and tried to hide them. He did a steal. I'm not excusing it. He did a steal, but clearly what he did was right. was a human weakness. So eventually the losses became so big due to the earthquake in Japan that the bank collapsed. So
and he went to prison, didn't he?
He escaped. He went, if I remember right, to Singapore and then Bali. Eventually he was caught in Germany. And he was tried, went to prison, came out of prison, started teaching. I think owns a pub now, I hear, or something like that. And, best of luck to him. And after we went bankrupt, I was in the States. The bank had sent me to go and work in the States. And I was there for 3 months looking for an apartment, staying in a very posh hotel. And it was Sunday. I went back to the hotel and I found we didn't have cells at the time, like no mobile phones. So I found all of these blinking messages on the hotel. I'm sure and you have them here.
Yeah.
And it was blinking a lot. So I thought, Jesus, I've got a lot of messages. And I picked up the phone and it was my boss from London, said, look, the bank just went bankrupt. I didn't even know. I hadn't heard it in the news because it was over the weekend. The bank went bankrupt, pack your stuff and come. So I literally packed everything on the spot. I went to exit the hotel. I was staying 3 months there. It was a very expensive hotel. And they wouldn't take my corporate card because they said, well, the bank collapsed. We cannot accept this card. It was so embarrassing because I was just, 2 years in the job. I didn't have the money to pay the hotel. Anyway, eventually I sorted it.
Wow, what happened?
I sorted it through transfers, wire transfers from abroad. And I joined the list of creditors of the bank because the bank was bankrupt. Right? Eventually, ING, which is a Dutch bank, came and bought us. Whereas at the beginning we were told we would lose our jobs, we kept the job. And I moved to ING, where I eventually became the head of structured products and then the head of credit derivative business. It was credit derivatives was a new, one of these creations of the rocket scientists. It was a new product, completely new product at the time, and I became the head of the global team of credit derivatives in ING. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Back to what I was saying, thoroughly enjoyed the journey. Eventually, and my colleagues, I loved working with each and every one I did. Eventually, the bank decided, because London was very expensive and costly for the bank. I'm sure you've heard, about the golden handcuffs and the bonuses, which at the time were quite a lot. And they decided to move the headquarters, the trading headquarters, to Brussels in order to save costs, because Brussels was much cheaper and employees there wouldn't expect to get paid as much as they would in London.
And also, I guess, office space and everything was cheaper.
And everything, yeah. And I didn't want to move to Brussels myself. I loved London. I had my life there. So I unfortunately, I had to leave, and I left ING and I went to Mizuho, who was a Japanese bank. At the time, it was the 5th largest bank in the world, where I was heading the credit, interest, and FX derivative businesses. Again, fantastic place to work, great colleagues, lots of Japanese colleagues as well, and I used to visit Tokyo all the time. And in 2008, with the financial crisis, actually, the banking crisis, after the Lehman Brothers collapsed, Sunshine, the kids were 5 and 3, and Sunshine really didn't want to raise them in London, even though she was born and raised in London herself. She found life became, which is true, life became very difficult, right, in London with the children. And she wanted to come to Cyprus. I didn't want to come. I loved work so much, and I loved London and the social life we had in London as well. So we had like a bit of a friction about the whole thing. But I'm a team player. I'm a family guy. So, I saw it, it meant so much to her. So eventually I accepted, and we came down to Cyprus. And actually it's worked out so well. I never looked back. I thought I would not like Cyprus, but it really, as soon as I came, I sank in, and it was so nice. And I realized the positive difference the good weather made. I never minded the weather in London, never. It could be raining, it could be pissing. I was always okay with it. On a motorbike, commuting, no problems. But when I came to Cyprus, this brightness, it's just so nice.
Yeah, it really lifts your mood.
It lifts your mood. And I realized it's not that London had a negative effect, but Cyprus had such a positive effect. The weather and living here and the sea. even though I broke a deal with her.
But how did you decide on Limassol, not Nicosia?
Well, I broke a deal with her that we come down here, we go to Nicosia, and because that's where all my friends are, and that's where my family, my parents and sister was. But most importantly, it was I wanted to be with my friends, and I broke a deal with her because she wanted Limassol. And we had a house here that she had renovated in the old part of the city. And we said, let's stay in the house until we find something in Nicosia. And we used to go and come every day, to be fair to her, trying to find something in Nicosia. And about a month in, I saw how Sunshine was living and enjoying Limassol. I saw how the kids started windsurfing. It was winter, and yet they started windsurfing in the winter, enjoying Limassol. And I thought, you know what? It's such a better city, at least for them. I mean, for me, because of the relationships, maybe Nicosia would have been better. But objectively speaking, in my opinion, it's such a better city. So I eventually said, okay, gave in.
Oh, that as
well. But I love it now. But now I love it.
Well done, Sunshine.
I love it now here. It's so nice.
It is lovely. I love Limassol. I wouldn't swap it for any other city. I just think it's... even the small things, like I always take the beach road coming to work, and I only live 5 minutes away from the hotel. And every morning without fail, and every day when I leave the office, whatever time of day, whether it's, full sunshine or dark, or I appreciate that drive. I appreciate seeing the sea in its different format and different ways. And whether it's, raining or whether it's sunny or whether it's spring. And just those few minutes. Something magical about it,
isn't it? Yeah, I do exactly the same. I live by the sea, and the work is also by the sea, like a few kilometers further down. So every morning I just take that seafront road, either in a car or a motorbike, and it's just so nice.
Yeah.
So soulful feeling watching the sea.
Never take it for granted.
Yeah. I tell my friends from abroad, the friends I have from my London days and university, I tell them honestly, because nobody really knows Cyprus, and they frown upon it. It's like, gee, you went to live in a village.
Yeah.
And I tell them, guys, I honestly think by international standards, Limassol is just great. It's big enough to be a city, small enough to be a village. It's manageable. It's got the weather. It's got decent restaurants. It's got decent supermarkets to shop food. It's just... everything is just,
we've got our shops now. We have,
and then it's becoming multicultural as well, which is great, right? More and more by the day. We have, it used to be multicultural, but only really the Balkan,
Russians,
the Russians, and
some British,
which was great,
some Germans.
And some British. But now you have a lot of Israelis coming and a lot of Americans coming, and in my daughter's class, lots of Chinese
Asian,
as well. Yeah, so
exactly,
it's so
Indian.
nice. So nice.
Yeah. I agree. So you decided on Limassol, the best city in the world. Here we are. And then, so what happened then career-wise at that point?
Right. So in Cyprus, I didn't want to work for a bank because I was an investment banker in the UK. Here, it's just retail banks. And I was convinced that I would like the culture of Cyprus bank working environment. I joined the board of Hellenic Bank. I was asked to join the board. It was just after the haircut. And
so in 2013.
2013, it had new shareholders. The church basically lost. It used to be owned by the church. The church lost its shareholding, had new shareholders that meant to do business. So I joined the board. But when I came to Cyprus, because I didn't want to join, I came in 2008. I didn't want to work for a bank. I set up my own company with my business partner and lifelong friend, who's called Pavlos. And we set up our own company, which was a financial technologies company. So I went from being a banker, which is like if you like, associated with conservatism and, like a career job, into being totally an entrepreneur, setting up a company from scratch, trying to create the technology that was required to do, to eventually use that technology to offer financial services to our clients. It was a roller coaster. It's definitely not easy. It's can be stressful because you never know where the next cent is going to come from in terms of revenue, but it's so enjoyable at the same time. And, we went through ups and downs in terms of setting it up and in terms of the financials of the company, But eventually we succeeded. We formed a decent company of 30 people with a very good range of clients, most of them investment managers from abroad. In Cyprus, we didn't have any clients. Good revenue, and we grew it quite successfully. It took us from 2008 to 2017, actually. And from 2013, I was also on the board of the bank, but a non-executive, clearly, not on an executive role. And eventually, MUFG, who is the company I work for now, came in and the company was called Point 9 that Pavlos and I set up, came in and bought us. And at that time, totally coincidentally, when they made an offer to buy Point 9, I was asked by the board of directors, my colleagues basically of Hellenic Bank, if I wanted to consider joining the process to be a CEO of the bank. And I told Pavlo, if we are to sell, I'm not going to be locked in because the buyer expected that the key person should be locked in. But I negotiated not to be locked in and moved and became the CEO of Hellenic Bank.
Wow. And
so
I have to
left
ask,
Point 9.
where did Point 9,
MUFG.
where does that name come from?
We ran out of words, we ran out of numbers, and we eventually settled in on the decimal, 0.9, 0.9.
I love it.
Honestly.
Really?
We spent so many hours.
But why 0.9? Like, it's because it's the closest to 1? Or like, is there
I can't remember why.
That's hilarious. I love it.
It was complete fluke. But actually, it worked quite well, the name. It worked quite well, yeah.
And it was literally a 0.9 or point with a P-O...
P-O-I-N-T-9, N-I-N-E, but we managed to make a very good logo out of it.
That's memorable.
A logo that is memorable, actually. So it worked quite well. But honestly, we spent so many days, months, going through names, checking if the copyright existed, if the website existed, and eventually we just gave up.
But I like 0.9. It's like close to 1, close to whole, and it's good. And yeah, I like it.
And I had so many people over the years tell me all these theories of how I could explain it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, apparently the 9 symphonies are the most successful symphonies of the biggest composers like Beethoven and Mozart, and whoever else has the best symphonies, the 9th one. And something point have to do with the universe. I can't remember. But, at the end of it, that's not the truth, though. So that's
like
not why we chose it.
I love it.
So...
Okay, so you became CEO with Hellenic. I remember at the time, it was a big thing. Everyone was like, wow, have you heard? And it was, a lot going on.
Again, a very enjoyable trip. I knew I was on the board. In my opinion, the bank had long-term issues, Hellenic Bank, because it was a small bank, 6 billion of balance sheet, the 4th largest bank in Cyprus. In a country that has only 1 million people, really, even one bank is a lot. Okay, maybe you don't want one because of monopolies. 2 banks is more than enough. And we were the 4th one with 10% of market share. Can't survive like that. In the new era of, especially of the regulated environment of banks, big is beautiful, right? And you need to be big to survive. So in my opinion, always, because of course other colleagues at the board may have different views, the bank was viable in the long run. And actually that happened to be the view of the regulator as well. So when I took on the challenge, because to begin with, it's a massive challenge to try and navigate a banking institution of 1,500 staff at the time. And my immediate goal from the get-go, actually from before I accepted the job, because I was sweating over whether to take the job because of my concerns of the long-term viability of the bank. Immediately we set on this trip to try and merge at the time. We didn't realize it would end up in a takeover of the cooperative. So as soon as I started, the job was the main strategic target in my head was try and make Hellenic Bank viable by de-risking the bank, and the way to do that is to try and merge with the cooperative. At the same time, because I'm very much very sensitive on people issues, the second important thing for me was change the culture. I don't, it's not a secret. I don't like the banking culture in Cyprus. I don't like the environment. I don't like this attitude of, it's like civil service. It's like public sector employees, the bankers go to work at 7:30. At 2:00, everybody leaves. Nobody wants to work a bit more if they have a bit more work to do. And it's just the mentality of do the work just to get the work done. Find a job for life, that type of attitude, which is against everything I was saying earlier about loving what you do. And then you don't care what time you do it in, and you don't care how long you do it for, and how many hours in the day you have to work for, right? So that was my second target. It was just to try and change the culture and make it much more meritocratic, make it a fun place, a place where people want to work and enjoy working and get to express themselves. And therefore the bank, I thought would be more successful like that. And it was so enjoyable trying to achieve both and setting up a management team, that we all work together at the end of the day, trying to navigate this institution and bring these changes on both aspects that I talked about. And, the journey of taking over the cooperative was just full of experiences, trying to convince the government that was a shareholder that we were the right buyer for the cooperative, trying to convince the regulator that wouldn't have any of it, the European Central Bank, that we were the right team or management team to execute this takeover and to integrate the two institutions, which is by no means an easy task. It was, full of experiences. I can write a book about that.
Oh, well,
Eventually, we managed. Right? We choreographed it all. We managed to convince the government. We managed to convince the regulator. And what we thought started as a merge, when we looked under the bonnet of the cooperative and, we really started the due diligence work, and the independent people that would value the two balance sheets came in to value the two balance sheets, we realized that the bank had a big hole. And therefore, what was meant to be a merge in our heads eventually became not only a complete takeover, but the government had to pay us in order for us to take over the bank. Simply because the hole, because of the non-performing loans, was so big that the deposit liabilities that the bank had, because the bank, what is it? It takes deposits and then it makes loans. It uses those deposits to make loans. Well, if the loans default, you don't have money to pay your liabilities and you have to pay off your depositors, right? You don't want a haircut situation that we had in 2013. So in order for us to be able to make good those obligations, we had to actually receive an additional payment from the government, the shareholder, in order for us to accept to buy those little assets because of those massive deposit liabilities that we had. But eventually everything worked out well and to the benefit both of the cooperative, because the staff kept their job and the depositors kept their deposits, and we didn't go through another bail-in. And with the risk Hellenic. And we made it from the fourth largest bank in Cyprus to the largest retail bank with the largest number of customers, if you like, on the island, and the second largest by assets after Bank of Cyprus. So it was quite a journey.
You can say,
but again, importantly, it was enjoyable.
Most important.
All those nights and working with all those wonderful people. The management team and all the consultants that we had and the board that helped us with all the approvals that we needed and guide us. So nice.
We go back to the people. Yeah, people
Absolutely.
Are so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and human relations.
Every company is about people. There's nothing else. Even if it's a technology company, it's about the people that build that technology, right? And it's the most important thing. And it's important to ensure that the people you hire are like-minded in the sense that they are free spirits, in that sense, like-minded. But I find there's nothing better than working with a different variety of people, with different attitudes, with different cultures. It adds so much to the team. It makes it the sum of the sum of the total is more than the sum of the parts. If you get diverse crowd of people, diverse in every way, in cultures, in religion, in gender, in sexuality, in beliefs, right? It just creates such a dynamic group of people and a better team. So it's interesting that because I'm a scientist, when I was younger, I would always argue. I remember at university, I read that in the States, they passed this law where they had quotas, and you had to hire as a company a minimum number of non-whites, Hispanics or black or whatever was the minority groups. And as a scientist, I thought this is just so unfair. You just have to hire the best. It can be whatever color they are, but they have to be the best. You interview two people. It doesn't matter if it's two blokes instead of two women, and the two blokes are the best, or the other way around. You just hire the best. As a scientist, I would think like that. Now I realize that actually quite often you add more to the team by hiring someone that's worse, but that's that bit of color, that bit of difference, that bit of extra challenge. And now I realize that sometimes it's better to hire not the best, just go for diversity.
Interesting. Well, I heard something the other day that I really liked. It said if two people agree on the same thing all the time, one of them is useless.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely right.
I said, actually, it's like marriage. In every good way, yin and yang. You need different people. You need that balance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fully agree.
Yeah. So back to the culture and the human aspect of Hellenic and that particular company you're working for. Do you think you were successful as well in changing the culture and making it a less
to a certain degree
mundane?
I find fulfillment that when I find my colleagues from Hellenic, they all recognize that the changes we're trying to make were great. But I would say that after 4 years looking back, I would say it was successful. It was successful in the sense that it made people realize how it should be, but it never really became because of the unionized environment. And we just, it's a very tough nut to crack, the unions. We tried to introduce performance-related pay, for example, to give increases, more increases than what they used to get the staff with the usual increments, they call them, which is basically every year everybody gets the same amount horizontally, irrespective of performance.
It's crazy.
Depending on how many years you are there, right?
Same with hotels, same with,
And we try to just make it fairer place to be. But it's, it's just such a difficult. And we did manage to introduce the change. And then there was a U-turn, simply because the union was too powerful. They sued us. I found myself in court under criminal lawsuit because of the changes we tried to do. So it was really tough. So I wouldn't say, looking back, it was the culture successfully changed, but definitely, and I see it in all the colleagues I speak to now, my old colleagues, definitely people realize where it should be going.
The seed was planted.
And they're all grateful that we tried. At least for that, I'm happy and grateful myself. So I left Hellenic, clashed with the shareholders on matters of, with some shareholders on matters of strategy. You can't be the CEO of a bank if the shareholders, have a different mindset as to where the bank should be going. So I left Hellenic, and by complete coincidence, I found myself working in this most wonderful company that I am now, which is the company that bought Point 9, MUFG. But it's complete coincidence, right? I basically was out of Hellenic, found out that they were looking for someone to set up a Cyprus office. And I will speak about that actually for a minute, because it's quite interesting for people that are in Cyprus to hear. And after speaking to the important stakeholders in the company, I realized I so much wanted to do this job. And I was lucky enough and grateful to my colleagues that hired me to get the job to grow the Cyprus office. Cyprus didn't exist for MUFG. MUFG is a bank, is Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group. It's the result of a lot of mergers of the banking sector that happened in Japan, the largest of which was Mitsubishi Bank with UFJ Bank. And UFJ is itself the result of mergers. And it's currently the 5th largest financial institution in the world. It's actually the first 4 are Chinese. So it's the largest non-Chinese financial institution in the world. And it offers a lot of different banking and financial services. And MUFG Investor Services, the specific company that I work for, is a subsidiary of MUFG Financial Group. And what we do is we are a fund administrator, it's called. And most of our listeners will not know what that is. I will explain it very briefly and succinctly. A fund administrator is exactly like an auditor to a company. The auditor works for the shareholder, not for the management of the company, but for the shareholder. And the importance of the auditor is they are there to give an independent view of the accounts. They are independent. They don't work for management. Usually companies have different management and different shareholders. And the auditor is appointed to work independently, to give an independent view of the accounts that the management produces to the shareholder. And that is to keep management honest, because there is a conflict. Management always would like to show they do a better job, perhaps, than they do, and to the shareholder that owns the company. So that's where the auditor steps in. Well, we do exactly the same thing as a fund administrator, but instead of doing it for a company, we do it for a fund. So our role is to work for the investor of the fund, to independently give the investor a view of the valuation of the fund that the investment manager is managing. So a fund has investors and has an investment manager. And again, there's a conflict because the investment manager wants to show they are doing, better performance than perhaps they are doing. So that's where we step in. We're like accountants, and we give independent view, and we do this daily. It's a
great formula that could be applied for so many companies.
Yeah. And absolutely. And we do it daily, though, not annually like the auditors do. Usually, most of the views of the valuation of the fund is done daily. And because to value a fund, you have to value every position, bottom up. And that's what we do. We have a lot of insight, and then we offer additional services. And MUFG Investor Services is the 5th largest fund administrator in the world, administrating about $1 trillion of assets across the various funds that are our clients. Our clients are the biggest investment managers and investment funds in the world, basically, your BlackRocks and Blackstones, etc. And MUFG Investor Services has a model that they service 24/7 around the globe. So the service starts being given in Asia, in our Singapore office, it's passed on into European offices, the same service, just 24/7, and then on to the Americas, Cayman, New York, Halifax, Toronto, wherever we have offices. And they were looking for a place in Europe to establish another office. And because our shareholder, the financial group, in Japan, they are very strict about the risks we take. They got involved in the process of selecting where in Europe should we open an office. And they looked at many countries. They looked at Hungary, Czech, Poland, Estonia, Malta, Luxembourg, Greece, Cyprus, and I think Lithuania as well. And it's quite interesting that there was a number of requirements. And let me say that we don't go for cheap service. We go for quality service. We're expensive, but we go for quality service. That's our motto. If you like, we don't try and just offer to our clients a cheap service. We believe quality is important in what we do. So number one requirement was somewhere where we can hire financial services professionals, that the DNA of the place is financial services. And Cyprus ticks that box. 10% of our GDP is financial services. It's, a lot of people here study and work in financial services. A lot worked abroad, in the UK a lot, so Anglo-Saxon mentality. So Cyprus ticked that box. Another was a place where we can retain talent, where staff tend to be loyal and where there's also not much competition to lose talent, because it's costly. You spend to train, you want to keep your
And I guess
colleagues.
where people will enjoy living. I mean, that's part of it.
I'll get to that. So we tick that box. Then high quality of life, because our model is we hire locally, about 80% of staff, but 20% expatriates that come from abroad, and in order to train the locals that are hired. So you want the expatriates to want to go. So a place with high quality of life where an expat would jump at the opportunity to go. We definitely tick that box, right? Then a place where taxation, personal taxation, not corporate, because we didn't care about our costs. Again, it's about service quality, but about low personal taxation. So again, the expats, it would be beneficial to come because their taxation wouldn't go up, but in most likely would it go down. We tick that box. A place with low cost of living, again, in order to be able to attract people. And believe it or not, in the research that was done, we were the second lowest cost of living from all these countries that I mentioned. The first one was Greece, and the second one was us. A place with low cost of doing business.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, me too. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think there must be something wrong
maybe
in the numbers.
Maybe a few years, maybe the data was
exactly.
old.
It feels so expensive now, everything.
Yeah. If you're listening to us, we love Cyprus, everyone, and it's great, but it definitely has gone up.
It has gone up.
The last
a place with low cost of doing business. We were the lowest there, lower even than Greece. So we tick that box. A place with high quality support services. Support services meaning you are auditors. You want them to be high quality, right? Well, you've got the Big Four here, huge presence. You hold your lawyers to be high quality. Well, all the lawyers here, have bar, UK bar, the top quality. So we tick that box. Honestly, Farah, it's amazing that Cyprus actually ticked all the boxes that this
we almost take it for granted.
Huge company, fifth largest fund administrator in the world. This is massive, like 1,800 staff.
They could have gone anywhere.
And they could have gone anywhere. And we ticked all those boxes. And here we are.
We must be so proud of that.
In May, and we are already 120 people, of which most are local hires and some expats that are great actually, and they love Cyprus and they come here to train. And we are now looking to grow significantly more. Just in 9 months, we are 120 people. And, long may it continue. I hope it's continued to be as successful as it seems. And I hope more companies follow suit, because this is the best quality income for Cyprus. You think that our income as a company, our revenue comes from abroad. So it's like export business. It's like we export services basically to our international clients, because that's, we offer services out of here to our existing clients globally. And where do we spend that revenue? Well, we pay rent, we pay salaries, and those salaries get consumed in the schools, in the restaurants, in the supermarkets, in the hotels, right? And therefore it's consumed locally. It's great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Helps the country a lot.
Well, and again,
it helps us as a company because we really found a successful place to do business. So, very happy with that. Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And again, you love it. We're back to you're doing what you love.
And one thing that I was flabbergasted by is the culture. I said about the problems of the Cyprus banking culture. But I also worked as an investment banker, and I know what it means to have a good culture. This place has the best culture in any company I have seen. The focus on diversity, on inclusion, on equity, on mindfulness, on well-being of staff, on staff being happy and being able to express themselves at work. The focus on the individual is just so amazing. It's very, maybe it will sound wrong, but it's very advanced, American in the approach that is being followed, and it's just absolutely.
Is that because it's Japanese?
Superb.
And
I think it combines the best of Japanese, but also of the American. Where you hear more from American companies, these values coming out of diversity, meritocracy, inclusion, equity. Equity, we were discussing the International Women's Day the other day, and Happy Women's Day, by the way. And Happy Mother's Day for
but in the UK, we celebrate all of them.
And we were discussing about equity. And again, for me as a scientist, this is something at the beginning of my life I couldn't get. It's like, well, you need equality. And do you understand the difference between equality and equity? So equality is about giving everybody the same tools to do a job. I'm talking about the work environment now, right? Or even, you and I will go somewhere, we'll get the same bicycle and we'll use it to go. Equity is about giving everybody the tools they need to get them where you want them to go, to get everybody to the same place. Rather. So someone that is more inhibited for whatever reason, has a disability, let's say, you give them more tools in order to get them to get to the same place as someone that is more privileged, right? And these concepts are like so great. It's so great to see them at work. And that's why, for example, you need to give women more tools because women have more to juggle with in their day-to-day lives. They're mothers, right? They need, truth be said, mothers spend more time and need more with the kids. So you need to give them more on the work environment in order to ensure that they're not discriminated or underprivileged versus men. And that's what equity is, right? Just making sure that everybody gets what they need in order to get to where
they need to
everybody needs to go.
I also discuss that quite a lot and have done in the past, but I've used different terms. I've said to be equal or to be fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. And, you can, with your children, we see it all the time. I mean, you've got two, I'm hitting the glass in my ring, 2 kids. You have, or it could be 2 employees or anything you can be equal to both of them, but are you being fair?
Yeah.
Because one might need something else or...
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely right.
And one child might need more help with the homework.
I spent so much more time studying with my son when he was young than with my daughter because he needed more help. Yeah. Now, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's equity. Yeah. It's not equality. Equality, I would have said, well, I have 5 hours a day to give them. I'll give 2.5 to each.
2.5 each. Right. But the one needs more. And then, And then it balances out because later one will need something different. Of course. That's what I try and tell my kids when they say, hey, you love the other one more than me.
I hear that all the time.
The joys. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so Yanni, I could talk to you for ages, but I know we've got to get on with our lives. But a couple more questions. What are your hopes for Cyprus? You obviously love Cyprus. I think it's obvious that you've not just grown to love it, maybe the love was always there, but appreciated it.
I appreciate it. I love it.
In different ways because of different stages of our lives.
I love it, but
what are your hopes?
Then again, I love every place. Right? Yeah. It's not, I don't want to be nationalistic. I love Cyprus because I'm Cypriot, not at all. I loved London when I used to live in London as much as I love Cyprus now. I want to do Cyprus to do well. I want every country to do well. But I want Cyprus to do well because at the end of the day, we live here and we have roots here and we grew to love this place as well.
And so what are your hopes for
And
Cyprus?
I hope that we could, to begin with, the example I gave with MUFG coming to Cyprus, because Cyprus is so small, these little changes make a big difference in the island. I calculated that the contribution of MUFG to the GDP of the country when we will be 300 staff is going to be 0.15%. I mean, imagine one company. I hope more companies come. I hope we become more international. It will help society open up our minds a bit. It will also help the economy because it will increase the GDP and the well-being of everybody around us. So I really hope Cyprus continues to grow that way. What I really believe is important and I would love to see for this island is the solution of the Cyprus problem. I really think that without it, we are nowhere. I think we don't realize as Cypriots that if we solve the Cyprus problem, in whatever shape, I don't want to take a political view, it should be
reunited
confederation
or
this or that,
whatever
way, the economy is going to fly, society is going to become better because in one way or another we have to learn to live with our neighbors, which a lot of us unfortunately consider our enemies. But we need to learn to love them. And that will be good for our society at the end of the day, right? And our children. We give them the right example. I think it's of paramount importance to solve the Cyprus problem. And unfortunately, we never see enough traction getting there.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe as time moves on. We don't know. So, favorites, we've mentioned a few as well, but do you have maybe a favorite book that you'd like to share with everyone or a favorite quote or mantra that you use often?
Favorite book? It used to be my hobby, reading. So I have my main hobby is my work to begin with, right? And I think if your main hobby is not your work, you must be crazy. So I'm not embarrassed to say it. My hobby is my work. But my other two hobbies that I used to have, one I still have is motorbiking, and the other is reading books. I don't know. I don't have the attention span anymore. I don't know if it's the same with you, Farah, but I used to love reading. Now, maybe it's the social media consumption, maybe it's the age.
Yeah.
Now, more than 3 pages, I cannot read, really. But I used to go and lock myself up in the mountains with two very good dear friends of mine once a month for a whole weekend. Actually, long weekends we used to make them and just read, lock ourselves and read. So I'll give you 3 books. One is... which I like as someone that is a scientist, but also someone that likes to exercise mindfulness, but also someone that tries to discover reality, is the Tao of Physics. The Tao of Physics is written by Fritjof Capra, and it's a very interesting book. Highly recommend reading anybody, especially if you are a bit of a scientist. It takes a chapter about quantum physics and a chapter about Buddhism. And it shows you how the two are the same. And then it goes, the third chapter is about quantum physics, but simply explained quantum physics. And then again about Buddhism. It's a fantastic book. And another one that I love is The Power of Now, written by Eckhart Tolle, something that for me, it was life-changing. And something that I practice, just live in the now. Don't make plans for the future. Don't worry too much about the future. You never know what's coming. And if you worry about the future, you always lose sight of today. And today is the most, we're here. Enjoy each other, enjoy Farah right now. Farah, enjoy Yannis, enjoy this beautiful equinox day.
Yeah, ground yourself, be present.
And I find that book is so nicely, simply written. And another one that I just gave my wife, and that's just the third one, is The God Debris. Highly recommend.
Okay, I don't know that one.
A thought experiment. It's a very small book. It's like 40 pages. It's written by Scott Adams, the guy that created the Dilbert, the comics. It's the only book that he wrote which is non-comic. And it's the story about pizza man going to take a delivery to an old guy who is disabled and can't move on his chair. And the old guy starts chatting with him. And then there's this amazing dialogue of exchange of ideas about God, about physics, about reality, about, it's a thought experiment. And it's very small, it's a very short book, and it's just so wonderfully written and such a challenging, thought-provoking book. Highly recommend.
I must get that one. I haven't.
I'll get it for you.
And quote, is there a quote or a mantra that we said love your work. You've said that.
Just be yourself.
Be
That's
yourself.
what I said too.
I love that. That's what I tell my kids. You're enough. You're enough as you are.
Just discover yourself and make sure you're in control of your life. Nobody else.
Yeah.
Don't live the life of others.
Yeah. It's so true. And just to be proud of who you are. And
absolutely.
I love that expression as well. Be yourself, because everybody else is taken.
Yeah.
So there's no point trying to be someone else.
And don't be shy to to be yourself, whatever that may be,
Yeah.
In Cyprus, we have all these preconceptions on sexuality, for example. You are gay, you cannot say it, or it used to be when we were growing up. Now it's becoming better. It's becoming better, but
we're still
not there.
We're not there. Yeah. It's so true, and it's very sad to see people live a lie and be miserable.
Yeah. I fully agree.
Absolutely. Okay, so last bonus question from our crystal bowl. Do you remember the crystal maze?
Yeah.
Shall I read it to you?
Of course, please.
Right.
Bonus question.
So if I can read the writing, because sometimes I can't, or it's a struggle.
Oh my God, we went on.
Well, we've already said this. I'm gonna ask you to pick another. This is, what is your advice?
That's not fair. It means I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Leave it there.
What is your advice in a young person who starts now her career? So,
we just went through that.
We went through that.
Let's not bore.
Yes, come on. Let's do another one. I'm going to put that back and let someone else pick that one.
There you go.
That's so funny. It was exactly what came up. Amazing. What's your opinion about ChatGPT?
Oh my God, I love it.
Do you?
You know what it is?
Yeah.
This is artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's shocking. My daughter writes very well. Very well. She's very insightful. And she was writing her essays, applications for the US universities. And she wrote some very nice essays. They call them personal statements. Very nice.
Oh, yeah, the personal statements. I remember that.
And then I opened ChatGPT and I asked it to write an essay for a US university. And the essay it wrote was just better than the ones my daughter wrote. It was shocking.
It was so perfect.
Just shocking. Anything you ask it, it's okay. Sometimes it can be a bit self-fulfilling, so it gives you an answer, and you think that is the answer it should give you, and maybe it's a totally wrong answer. If you get what I mean, we get fooled into.
Yeah.
But I asked it to give me an ingredient, a recipe for a pasta with a Cypriot twist. And it gave me this ingredient about these short pastas with kaurma. You know what kaurma is?
Yeah, it's like the village ones.
Yeah. I mean, ChatGPT knowing about kaurmas and giving me a Cypriot pasta recipe with kaurma. Haligi, which is a Cypriot cheese in Paphos. They only make it in Paphos. In Delirka, this cheese. Absolutely amazing. I don't know where it ends up. Scary.
Yeah.
This is really scary. And I was listening to this very interesting podcast, actually, and it was a person arguing that you will never know when this thing will end up having a consciousness. Because at the end of the day, what is conscious? Anything you throw at it, it just responds and it gets better and better and better, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
And
yeah, where the world is going.
Artificial intelligence pictures, drawings that it can make. Also scary. You can ask it to draw you something and it just brings these wonderful creations. And you think, oh, I thought creativity was reserved to the humans and to us living. No, the computer is just us creative.
The future, the way the world is going.
One thing for sure, it will change the work environment, right? It will. The works of the future will not be the works of the jobs. The vocations will not be the jobs of the past.
Yeah.
What was that? I got this WhatsApp. It was saying, I used ChatGPT to do all my work. And then I realized my work could be done by ChatGPT, meaning, I was out of a job.
Yeah, out of a job. Yeah. But then other jobs will be created. And I think they'll always, we see it now after the pandemic, and we've never been so advanced in terms of technology. And yet we've never had such a shortage of human workforce. So I think there will always be the need for people.
More to do with maybe emotional intelligence and, areas, vocations that have to do more with the human aspect, if you like, than the computer.
Well, we can see it in the hotel. Like we predicted, oh my goodness, I gave a talk at the beginning of the pandemic, online obviously, projecting possible outcomes of tourism after the pandemic. And I laugh because I look back and nearly everything that the whole industry, not just myself, but we were imagining would be trends was completely off, because we said, okay, people will want room service. People will be doing in-room activities. People will become more secular. They will not want interaction. They will be scared of other pandemics or diseases. And actually, the complete opposite happened. People came out of it. They arrived in the hotel. They wanted to see faces. They wanted to be served. They wanted to talk more before booking a treatment. And people didn't want to be in the room. We bought, I can't remember, 100 exercise mats because we thought people would want to exercise in the rooms. Everybody was like, get me into that gym, get me outside. And they were just so eager. They were so desperate for human interaction.
Amazing.
I think we'll always, it's
That's
so nice.
Nice to hear.
Yeah, we'll always need that. Yannis, thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my goodness.
It's so great to see you.
What lovely, juicy, if I can use those words, comments and just memories of a wonderful life and now, and so much more to live and look forward to. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.